There. Today I want to make a short video sort of showing and describing the solar offset system that I have set up. I'll be showing the solar array as well as the inverter, and we're also, towards the end, we're going to watch the electrical meter actually run backwards. So here we go. So this is the solar array. The array consists of 16 individual 75-watt solar panels, and you can see that I have them mounted on this pole, and then there's a bracket that kind of holds them all together. And so we'll just kind of look up here and we can see that it's a Siemens solar panel, and it gives you a little bit of information about that. And one of the interesting things is that these are considered a hazard when they're exposed to sunlight. You don't want to touch the terminals because they are considered actually a shock hazard. They immediately produce electricity as soon as sunlight hits them. Okay, so here we have the inverter. It's actually a 4,000 watt inverter, and originally this was set up with a bank of batteries. However, the batteries, it's kind of a long, sad story. The batteries, the original batteries that were set up with the unit ended up dying, and so what I've done now, I have to have two smaller batteries to make the inverter function, but I'm basically using it in a mode where it's not backing any power up. I'm not trying to store any power, but the mode I'm using it in is to quote-unquote sell or push electricity back to the power grid, and I do have approval from my local electric utility to do that. That's very important that they inspect the system and make sure that it meets the standards. And then the other thing that's very important is that they test to see what happens in case of a grid power failure. The inverter should instantly disconnect itself, because if, let's say, they have a line down and the grid goes down, well, they want to avoid at all costs a situation where an inverter from a customer would be pushing power back into that, and then someone could get electrocuted from the power that would be coming from the inverter. And so they perform a test to make sure that the inverter will instantly disconnect itself from the grid in case the grid itself goes down. Okay, so now we are out at the power meter on the utility pole, and this is a digital power meter. You know, it used to be that they were analog. Actually, I can show you an analog one because I have a second unit that's right here. That's the old style analog, and it's kind of hard to see, but it does have a little disc that physically turns. So this one is the one that I'm actually using, and the other one's not in use right now. But what we'll do, we're going to watch those numbers, and you see them flash every so often. You know, it's flashing 8s right there. And so what we're interested in are what appear to be the two little dashes below the numbers. And so right now I'll see if I can show you with my finger. The dashes are right there, and so what we will do is we will continue to watch and see if those dashes move. Okay, you just saw them move. They moved to the left. So now they were right there, now they're here. And so that those dashes on the digital meter actually simulate the moving disc. So this power meter is indeed running backwards. So I'm right now with that inverter, and of course we're in direct sunlight that's hitting the solar arrays. It is actually putting power back into the grid. And now right now we can see that it's split. You have a dash here and a dash there, so it's again with the digital power meter, it's simulating the disc, or the physical disc in a conventional meter running backwards. Now of course I do have loads on in the house. I've got various transformers plugged in and things that normally would stay plugged in. Now we can see that it's moved over here, you know, so it again, you know, it's simulating a spinning disc, but in this case the disc is actually moving backwards. So it's an interesting way of using a solar array. Instead of trying to use it as, you know, as a device to store energy, it's much better to just use a system completely without batteries, and using it as a means of compensating for electrical use. So another way of looking at this, right now with the sun out, any energy that's being used in my house is being generated right here on the spot, and then the excess energy that's being generated is actually making my power meter run backwards.